Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the founder of Taste Buds Kitchen, Jessi Brelsford. Jessi, how are you today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Frank.
Being on. Well, Jessi, tell us all about Taste Buds Kitchen and tell us how this whole thing got started.
Yes. All right. Thanks for asking. So I don't know if I describe me first. Taste Buds, we're one and the same. It's been 17 years now. But I'll tell you my story, which leads to Taste Buds Kitchen story. So I'm a founder of 17 years, but back up, I'm 43 years old. I'm from Maryland. I was one of 23 first cousins. So I was always around kids. I'm the third oldest. It's Pied Piper. So always having fun in the kitchen and with all the kids in my family. I also love business. I love numbers. I love math. I was doing math problems as a kid for fun with my dad. So I grew up, I went to Harvard. I majored in economics. I swam Division I. Sports, the competition part of me in that. And I kind of followed that path and took a job in Wall Street. So I moved to New York City, 2003 when I graduated college and worked in finance for 7 years. During that time, I had fun learning, but I did find I was with people between the age of 20 and 40 who wore a suit. I wasn't doing anything creative. I wasn't around kids. None of my family lived in New York. Like I said, I was from Maryland. So I started teaching kids to bake for fun on the weekends once or twice a month. So it was never a business idea. It was just something I wanted to do, and people loved it. I had, a celebrity come to my first class with his child. I didn't even recognize him until after he left. It took off, right? People wanted me to do birthday parties. They wanted to know if I would do summer cooking camps for their kids. I had to decline. I was working 60, 80-hour weeks in Wall Street. And that's kind of how the idea was born. So fast forward a year, now you're in 2008, heart of recession. I worked for Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns was tanking. JP Morgan was going to buy us.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, I remember it. I worked in fixed income sales and trading, so I was right on the floor and kind of in front of all this, watching it on TV. So I raised my hand and said, I want to be laid off. I'm going to leave and I want to pursue my business, which I've started full time. And I knew at that point we were going to do all ages and all kinds of food. So Taste Buds Kitchen was officially born. So what we do is we're a culinary entertainment experience for kids and adults. So ages 2 to 99. We have a beautiful kitchen. It's 2,000 square feet. You come in and you cook or bake, start to finish, the menu that you've signed up for. So on the kids side of things, we have summer camp, school break camp, every day school's out, we are in. We have birthday parties. We have caregiver and me classes for the 2-year-olds. We have teen classes. We have family classes, all about having fun in the kitchen. And then on the adult side of things, we're BYOB typically. So you can bring your own beer or wine, and you can do a date night class, an adult class. We do corporate team building events. We've done 30th birthdays, 50th birthdays, 70th birthdays. So that is in essence Taste Buds Kitchen.
Wow. You followed your passion. You went from Harvard, Wall Street to saying, I'm giving up the Wall Street job. Jessi, what in the world did your family and friends say when you were leaving Wall Street to pursue this?
Yes, that's a great question. So my Wall Street colleagues thought I was nuts, 100%. They're like, okay. Right, what are you doing? And then I remember one of the guys is like, hey, I think you're going to franchise this one day. I knew nothing about franchising. I was like, I don't think so. I don't even know what you mean, really. My reference to franchising was McDonald's. So I quickly blinked that off. My family was supportive, but definitely after, I remember a call with my dad. At the time I was 26. Wasn't married, didn't own a home, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm sure. He's like, he's worked 2 companies his entire life, right? You have a good job. You have insurance, right? Like
you have benefits, right?
Vacation. Yes, exactly. All these things that you aspire for your kids. And he's like, but he also had owned businesses. He'd owned them on top of his job. So entrepreneur in that way, but never, fully self-employed. And I said, I am sure. I was like, why not me? Why not now? And I just felt like I had to do it. So after that conversation, he was supportive, my biggest fan. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. I tend, good or bad, my husband always says this, I don't really care what other people think. So
Were you always that way? Oh, that's incredible.
I was the kid, like when you're 6, not getting invited to a friend's birthday party. My mom was devastated for me. I was like, it's okay. So I don't know if some character trait I have, again, good or bad, I'm sure it's both, but I just felt like it could work. I felt like I could figure it out. I wanted the challenge. And for me, I'm just happy doing it because I love business. I love numbers. I love figuring things out. I love baking and I love kids. And this has really been a way for me to combine all those things I'm passionate about. And then when we franchised, which was another story, like how we started franchising and why we decided to do that, but we've been doing that now for 10 years. It's been another incredible journey just to connect with like-minded individuals from across the country, many husband-wife teams, but certainly not all. We have, daughter, mother-in-law teams. We have individuals who are married, but not their spouse isn't involved. We have single individuals. Just helping them to realize their dreams too. They didn't even know existed, right? Taste Buds Kitchen is an industry that you probably don't know about, a lot of people. So if you're not aware, we have 12 kitchens located coast to coast. If you haven't been before, we're opening more. Hopefully you'll get the chance. Or you could consider opening your own Taste Buds Kitchen as well.
Promo spot right there.
Thank you.
Jessi, I want to go back to before you franchise though. So you start opening this first company on location in the Chelsea section of New York City, right? And during the Great Recession, what was that like? Did you find yourself that people kind of shrugged it off because they'll pay for their kids to do anything, right? They're not going to hold back. At least I found that too in my business. Yes. And that had to give you such a sense of reassurance that you were doing the right thing because there was a lot of people that were out of work. There were a lot of businesses that were struggling. And I would imagine that the moms and dads, they were paying for their kids to take these cooking classes.
Yeah, they were. And, you're exactly right. I started in the heart of the recession in New York City, but we did grow every year. Right. So when you're starting, you're small, but I didn't rent our current lease. We took out in 2010. So we've been in the same space. It's been almost 15 years now. For the first 2 years, what I did is I rented restaurants that weren't open for lunch. So I would literally walk the streets and I would knock on the door and I would say, hey, you're not open for lunch. Can I give you $75? Take over your facility and do a class. And they all said yes. Today, probably this wouldn't happen. But at that point, right, businesses were struggling to hold on. And so they were happy for me to use the space. We did that for 2 years. Again, I had a low overhead, right? It's just me and my carrying accessories and my team. One of my team members actually was the one that says, we need a space. This is backbreaking. We're literally carrying, stand mixers on the subway. Every restaurant is different. We're working with about 7 restaurants, Upper East Side and Tribeca and, all over. So that's when we actually signed our lease in 2010. And that was a game changer. That was a big risk again, right? Because now you have a commercial lease in Manhattan. But yeah, it's been great. We've grown every year. And I think our revenue streams, to your point, nothing's recession proof, right? People are going to have ebbs and flows in spending, but generally you're going to choose to spend on your children, if anywhere, right? I know I certainly would. Between birthday parties and then summer camp, which in some ways is similar to childcare because if parents are working, kids need somewhere to go when school isn't in session. So we have the great cooking camps, a lot of baking themes. Baking 101 is one of our most popular. And then we have the adults. So we have the corporate team building, we have the date night. So you have different revenue streams with different client bases, which helps to round out your revenue streams.
Percentage of your business is kids versus adults?
A great question. It varies by location, but on average, it'll be about 60% kids and about 40% adults.
Okay. Which is really great for you because at the end of the day, we need to keep the turnstile spinning, right? Inside our facilities, and that you're bringing in people for different ages at totally different times of day.
Times, yes.
And it was also so smart, I think, of you guys to use other people's facilities when you were starting out rather than you didn't need to take that risk of opening up a facility, which quite honestly, you wouldn't even have known really what size footprint you needed.
I didn't know. I didn't know how big. I didn't know which part of town, right, for the city. All the things that we now have software that helps us do and determine when we're a new location. I didn't have that. I just had my gut, and we tried restaurants, like I said, all over the city. So we were sort of different communities and really could get a feel for it that way. So yeah, it worked out.
Well, you were cruising along, and then around 2014-ish, I think, is when you decide you're going to franchise your business. So you had been around about 7 years. Can you share with me, like, what was there a defining moment or something where you were like, franchising is the way for me to go? Because the seed was planted many, many years ago by your colleague in Wall Street.
It's so funny. So no, what happened was people asked. I fell into franchising 100%. So in New York City, when I was running my kitchen, people would come and they'd be traveling from, visiting a friend, a cousin, a college roommate. They'd come to a class and they say, this is amazing. Are you going to do this? I'm from Austin, Texas. Are you going to open one there? Or I'm from Miami, Florida. And I said, no, I don't see that for myself. I'm so glad you're loving it. I hope you'll come back. And they said, well, could you teach me how to do this? Again, like out of nowhere. And I said, I don't know. Let me finish growing the model. Let me develop the revenue streams and see where it takes me. And I'll take down your name and email. So in 2012, 13, when I started entertaining the idea, it was more like, okay, I'd figured out the revenue streams. I'd figured out the model. I met my husband, we'd gotten married, and I was talking about like, okay, what's my next step? Are we going to open another location of Taste Buds Kitchen in New York City, right? How are we going to scale this business? I'm from Maryland. We had hoped to move back here one day. And so I said, you know what? I have a lot of people on this list who've inquired essentially about franchising. I don't know a lot about it. So I bought Franchising for Dummies, right? Like I read all the books. I Googled, which Google wasn't what it was. I started talking to anyone I could find about it. And I started to get excited because initially I would think of a McDonald's or, some of the bigger brands that you may know of. But I started to really envision like a boutique franchise brand where I could partner with like-minded individuals around the country, share with them the expertise that I had and help them to do the same thing in their markets. So that's what led to franchising. We then hired a franchise consultant, flew out, talked to him. It was in California. And my husband is an architect, did commercial real estate in New York City for many years. And he ended up leaving his job around the same time to join us full time. So he has been great because he helps all the location through site selection, construction, which is like his wheelhouse. He's great at it. All of our ownership groups currently include females, with a lot of times haven't been through commercial real estate. So it's a very scary, daunting part of the process. So he's helped all the locations to, find a great location, open, be built beautifully. And that's kind of how we got to today.
Where was your first franchise location?
First franchise location. So our oldest kitchen is coming up for renewal. It is in North Andover, Massachusetts. So it's about half an hour north of Boston. Thank you very much. Yes, 10 years.
A fast decade, wasn't it?
Yes. It was a very fast decade. 3 children later, we have twin 3.5-year-olds and a 6-year-old boy. I always say Taste Buds Kitchen was my first child. My second, 2, 3, and 4 were actual humans. But
right.
Yes.
Like a classic founder. That is very.
I think of it like my baby. So
yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, it's been an adventure. And then interestingly, and I know concepts will grow different ways, I didn't want to really promote the concept until I was sure we'd worked out all the kinks, right? When you're a new franchisor, you don't know what you don't know. So kind of setting out to franchise, I had to say, okay, what of this is like a Jessiism, right? That we can't repeat and we can't scale. And what of it can be scale? What can be a good franchise brand? Thinking about profitability, about scalability, about things that the communities would like, ways the franchisees would want to run their business. So we really worked on that and we opened about 1 or 2 a year, very slow and steady. Mm-hmm. Got to COVID. We're about ready to say, okay, we figured out the franchise part of it, ready to grow. COVID then happened. We had to close for a couple of months, depending on where you were, to even up to 6 months in some of the West Coast kitchens. And then, so now we've started to grow. So this year, 2024, we've just really started working with consultants and getting the brand out there, kind of publicizing it around the country, which has been exciting too.
We're about to leave the launching pad, it sounds like now.
Yeah, we have 23 locations right now, 12 open and then 11 in
Yes.
development, which is great. And it's so interesting where they are. It's literally across the country. We have two in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have one in Miami. We have some in the Midwest, outside of Chicago, outside of Boston, and New York City. So it's just where people found us. People always say, why are you where you are? It's where people found us from. They would find us on the internet and they'd reach out, and if we liked their market and we liked them, and they had the capital to do it, then we'd move forward and award a franchise and help them get open and hopefully successful.
Appreciate your honesty. I did the similar thing, but I don't know if I had to do it all over again if I would have done it that way for myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
It's just a
It's
lot.
hard to see them, right? That's the hardest part.
It is. And I feel like the bigger that we got, we're so focused on trying to keep them happy, but we were focused on growth too. And I felt like those early franchisees that we were spread out from coast to coast, it became a lot for us. I bootstrapped my company. I'm not sure if you did as well, but yeah, it's a lot because you don't want to lose that personal connection with our franchise owners. We need to give them the love, and we need to as much interaction with them. But as time goes on, it becomes a little more of a stretch if we go nationwide. But I can't blame you. I did the same thing. I think by my third year, we had people from Hawaii to New York, and we were in Florida. I mean, it was a stretch.
Yeah, I don't know if you found this too, but COVID helped with this because I do feel like Zoom, Google Meet, whatever you use really helps, right? So we're seeing all of our kitchens much more frequently via digital than in person, but it's really helped the relationship. It's helped with relationships and connecting and supporting and even being able to see events virtually. So that's been a really big tool that I think has come out of COVID, because I felt the strain of it before it more. We see all of our kitchens in person, say 2 to 3 times a year is our goal. Once when you come to us for the summit, once when we come to you, but then every month, if not more, we're connecting in this way.
Yeah, well, it wasn't as acceptable behavior for ongoing support.
Sure.
Years before COVID, I was at a conference where there was a franchise CEO founder, and she was saying that all of her business coach calls, this is years before COVID, all of her coaching calls were done over Zoom because there's something about seeing somebody, just their facial expression and how they're responding to the franchise business coach. It's for many of us, including us, we didn't really heed her warning, and we didn't use it. And we did, just the calls, and we do the field visits. But I feel like COVID made it obviously much more acceptable for everybody. Yeah. And it does make a huge difference than just that phone call, because you pick up on the body language of somebody, and you can see if somebody's uncomfortable, if a franchisee is, if they're doing well or they're having concerns, right?
Yep. No, exactly right. I agree with that.
With your educational background, Harvard economics grad, then you work at Wall Street, and then come into franchising. It's what's crazy about franchising is there's no formal training. Like you get thrown into franchising.
University. Yeah, Franchisor University.
So like a Harvard and Wall Street in some ways prepared you, but in many ways did not prepare you for the franchisor-franchisee relationship, right?
Correct.
What was life like then as really being a franchisor? Because you're no longer running just a company on location, you're in the franchise business. How did that change your dynamic of how you're going to grow your company when you started working with your early franchisees?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, like I always say, there's no franchisor school university, right? That would be really helpful. But so much of this, you have to learn. You have to learn by doing. So we are by no means perfect. We're still learning, but you take your best step at what's going to represent your brand well, and what's going to be fair to you, and what's going to be fair to your franchisees, and how this is going to work. And then you just work through it year by year, right? And I think my biggest lesson as a franchisor was just working with people in this way, right? Because it's not a boss-employee relationship. It's their own business, 100% theirs, and we're licensing them the name and the know-how to do this, and they've also put their life savings into this, right? They've invested a lot of money. Just learning how to be understanding of what they're going through, help them, celebrate with them the success. That was definitely a learning curve for me. Hopefully I feel fairly well through it, and I feel like we're really supporting our kitchens and have a good relationship with them, and now growing a team of myself. So I think it's been really great and really rewarding in that. But no, nothing prepares you for it. You just have to do it. Like, I do love that about it though, right? Like, I'm not a school person, even though I did go to Harvard. Like, I like to learn by doing. That's my favorite, right? I
Me too.
think that every day it's a new challenge and I'm either going to figure it out or I'm going to call someone that's done kind of similar. Like I said with Guy, my phone a friend, one of our partners in the franchise business, and I'm going to figure it out. So to me, that's really rewarding. It's very challenging. It's engaging and it doesn't feel like work to me. And
It's
I
not
like,
supposed to feel like work.
yeah, no, I love that. But it did back in Wall Street. I did the same thing every day, right? Like I had my lane and I knew what I was doing. And at Taste Buds Kitchen, when you're a CEO of a small emerging franchisor, you don't have a lane. All the lanes are yours, right? You have team members that you're trying to, swim with you. And we have fabulous team members, but we're learning together. You're learning what it's like when there's 5 locations and then 15 locations and then 50 locations, right? And then you
True.
go from there.
How many people are on your team now?
I have 9 members of HQ.
That's a good number of staff for the amount of franchises that you have open. I think it's really solid.
We have a great, excellent, amazing team. It's by no means a one-woman show at all. And that's been very, very helpful in having us grow. And then my husband and myself own the New York kitchen and our Maryland kitchen. And then we have teams that run those locations as well.
Who is your ideal franchise owner?
Our ideal franchise owner, it's a great question. One thing I love is that no 2 of them are the same. Right? So there's a wide variety of background coming in. You don't need formal culinary training. Always the number one question that I get asked, right? Do I have to be a chef? No. In fact, we don't prefer it, right? We have the recipes. We have the know-how. What we really want is people who are going to be engaged owners, who want to get in and want to run this business. Want to hire a local team, right? Build community. You're going to be out and about getting to know your clients, your guests, and your community, and then building your small business team. But for backgrounds, it's really very, very varied, from HR, sales professionals on the road all the time, not seeing their families. We have an engineer. We have a woman that ran a soup kitchen. So really very wide varieties of backgrounds, but all, I say the common, I think everyone is a parent. Some were not parents at the time, now are parents. We've had people, have babies while being franchisees. We have grandparents in the mix. But everyone's kids are really involved in the business. So whether they're little kids coming to the classes and camps while you're working in the back, or your kids are in high school and they're doing dishes and working the classes or the events, all the way up to grandparents when their grandkids are now coming to the classes. So it's a really family business. And that's generally what we find for success. So engaged owners, a level of business acumen, meaning like you want to drive this business forward, you want to figure it out. No specific education required. Want to be a member of your community, and want your family to be involved. It's just a very good work-life balance. Part of it is being able to bring your family to work.
Right. It really sounds like it was very similar to my business, very much a lifestyle kind of franchise. There are certain businesses where somebody, they buy and acquire franchises because just for purely the economics of it all. And then there's other franchise opportunities. Sounds like yours is one of them, like mine, where there's a connection to it. It has that stickiness factor where people are drawn to it and want to be part of it and want it to be part of their life.
Yes. Yeah, all of our franchisees want to be clients too, right? Like they love this. They're in it. They're in it for the passion. Yes, the numbers have to make sense. It's a business investment for them, but they're really, really passionate about it, which is exciting. And you can tell. I mean, our reviews, if you have a 4.8 star on Google, it's like the low man on the totem poles. We're like 4.8, 4.95, hundreds, thousands of reviews in some of our locations. So our franchisees, they're small business owners, community members, and really go above and beyond to create amazing experiences for our guests.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why is it that you prefer that your franchisees not have culinary experience?
Yeah, great question. So the reason we prefer they don't have culinary experience is because we've done the work to create these perfect culinary, well, nothing's perfect, these amazing culinary entertainment experiences. So we've timed the recipes to cook in the amount of time, right? We want them to be engaging, but not too challenging. We don't want it to flop on anyone, right? The cupcakes have to rise, right? The pasta has to cook. The sushi has to be rolled. So we've perfected that. And then what we've learned over the years is how to standardize that so that you can teach it the same as I can teach it. And your lead instructor can teach it the same way as your high schooler. So it's a system designed on repetition, profitability, trainability, marketability. So that's why a lot of times chefs will come in and say, oh, well, I like to do it this way, which is totally fine and like a great teaching tip to say in the class. But if you start teaching it differently than the rest of the system, one, we don't have a franchise, and two, it's not repeatable. You can't train your team around that. They don't know how to prepare it. So as long, and all of our franchisees love food, right? They love the kitchen. They love connecting, whether, they have fond memories of cooking with their grandmother, or, they lived in Italy for one summer, whatever the case is, there's a connection there and a passion for it, which is important. But there's many ways to make lots of recipes. So we've kind of figured it out the TBK way, and we want our franchisees to follow along.
You handle franchise feedback or suggestions, and has there been any input from franchisees that have actually added to the menu, or something has changed as a result of your network?
Yes. No, we love boots on the ground feedback. That's what we want. So we want to get you open. We want to train you. And then once you're up and running, we want that feedback. So we have franchisee committees, which meet on different topics, whether we're launching a new initiative or we're revisiting the, ideal menu lineup that we do. We're running data reports. I have a woman on my team who's one of her main jobs is to run reports on the data. Being an economics major, I love all the numbers. So we're taking that feedback and that data, and we're using it every year to grow. So every fall we have the summit. All of our franchisees come to Maryland. So we're just coming off of our summit, and we get ready for the year ahead. So we're sharing what menus are being run, what new initiatives they're having. So yes, we love the feedback. We just want it to be in a team mentality where we're testing the feedback to make sure that it works on a nationwide scale.
Super smart. Jessi, you referenced earlier on, I didn't get a chance to ask about the different revenue streams. So what else besides classes would you say are the multiple revenue streams of the business?
Guys, yeah. So camps all summer, every school holiday. Then we have adults. Adults are going to be our classes, date nights, and our corporate events, and the private parties for adults. Then we have our birthdays. And then we have, I'm blanking, camps, adults, birthdays. And then the others is our kids classes. These are like the little guys that you sprinkle in. So the caregiver and me classes, the field trips, schools coming into you. So those guys kind of balance it out between all the ages and public and private.
And merchandise or products that you sell also?
Not much. We used to dabble in that. Inventory is expensive and it's hard to keep stocked, right? You need extra storage, you need extra capital, and really people are here to have a good time. So we found that we're not trying to sell them on any particular thing, although you'll have tons of people on Amazon, ordering what we're cooking with because it's so fun to use our tools.
Of course.
No, we don't sell anything except for aprons, Taste Buds Kitchen aprons and chef hats.
Right. What's the investment range for the franchise?
Oh yeah. So item 7, we've got a good item 7 in 2024. It's between 380 and 530,000. So that's your total. For those listening, don't know the total investment of every dollar you'll spend from our best estimates from today until you're open. So franchise fee, construction, everything for your kitchen, money to come in for training, signage, lawyer to review your lease, right? Kind of adding up every dollar and penny and cents to get you open.
And is it territory based? How far apart?
We have territories. So it's 100,000 people generally. Can be depends on mileage. In a city, I'm sure it could be like a city block, but it can generally go up anywhere between 4 and 8 miles if it's not as populated. So between 0 and 8.
Right. And what about evaluating new markets? Where are you trying to go?
Yeah, so we have partnered with this really great company, and it's very cool being a data lover. We've given them our sales data, and we have mapped the country mile by mile to figure out who is the buyer of Taste Buds Kitchen, who are our clients.
And the psychodemographics of the current buyers.
Yes, exactly. We've profiled them, we know who they are, and then we used Experian credit card data to find others of them around the country. And we know where we're going. So we want to open 200 locations in the next 5 years. I think the country can do 400 to 500, but our first target is on 200. So definitely the big cities, the nice affluent suburbans. But yeah, we have it mapped. And so it's great now when we get a franchise lead, we're able to go in and say like, yes, this supports a kitchen, or no, I'm so sorry, we'd have our buyers there, but just not enough to support a vibrant kitchen. So, are you willing to drive 45 minutes to this area that is available? Otherwise, we know where it's too small as well.
Jessi, I am so jealous because back when I started in 2003, there was no software like this.
No, right?
It took years. I think it was probably around 2009, I'm thinking, was when we finally got our hands on software like that. So we had the psychodemographics. We knew exactly who all of our members were, where they were in every franchise location. And then it was super easy, right? Because if a territory is going to work or not. But truthfully, in 2003 and through the mid 2000s, I mean, it was a gamble. I
Yeah.
think
No,
it's
I
a
see
good
that. I mean,
territory.
I
You
knew that
didn't
even
know.
when we started. That's exactly right. It's a good market. You can see the demographics, how many people, you can see household income, number of children, all those things, but you can't necessarily predict as well as you'd like to now, right? These
That
softwares are amazing.
Yeah, like that software was only available to like large franchisors. It was a huge investment.
Huge.
And yeah, and now it's every day for, an emerging franchise like yourself. It definitely gives peace of mind for the prospective franchisee knowing on where they should open, but I'm not sure if they realize how powerful it is.
No, you don't know what you don't know, right? Either which way. And that is important to us. That's our guarantee to every franchisee is we won't approve a location to open that we wouldn't open ourselves. And that's really important, right? I want to think that you have every chance of or every opportunity for success. So if I would have done it had I lived where you lived, right? Then that's kind of our stamp of approval. And that helps, we work with CBRE, who's excellent on real estate site selection, but we want to find those great spaces that are affordable, where the build out's going to be as streamlined as possible, where your clients are going to come, where it's going to be easy for them to come experience culinary entertainment at its best.
Jessi, been doing this 10 years now. What has been the biggest surprise since you started franchising?
Biggest surprise. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
If we all knew that going in, none of us would do it.
It's so true. No, it's so true. It's so funny. I used to tell myself, I was like, when I grow up, I don't want to be a franchisor. I told myself this after I was a franchisor. But I do love it, and I am glad that we did it. But it's really it's a lot. It's because I was good at running Taste Buds Kitchen, and then all of a sudden you're now running a company that's nationwide with all of franchisees who have their own investments and their own dreams and their own communities, and it's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. So I would say that's been my biggest takeaway. But
I'm with you.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It's a lot of different personalities and different aspirations from different people, but I felt the weight on my shoulders of I wanted these people to be super successful, every franchise owner. And in some cases, and I hope that there's emerging franchisors that hear this, sometimes I wanted their success more than they did.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes a franchise owner, no matter how much I try to position it, just because you open a franchise doesn't mean you're going to have customers walking through your door automatically. Like success is not instant. Like the work has just begun once you've invested in the franchise. It's not over yet.
Yeah. No, and that's and I share with you the weight of their success, right? Because they've taken a lot of money and they've invested and they believe in me and they believe in our team. And that's why they're doing this. But you're exactly right. It's a business in a box is what a franchise should be, but no franchise is easy. It has to be worked. And that's really why our number one thing we look for in franchisees is an engaged owner. Someone that wants to be engaged with this experience and wants to build this team and care how it's doing. I had a conversation years ago with a franchisee, which sounds like very similar to some of your experiences. I wanted more for them and I was pushing for more for them. They were okay. And that's like a tricky position to be in when you see potential and and we've worked through it actually and they're performing very well and I think have come to the other side of it. But it was a call of kind of like, my goals and dreams are not necessarily their goals and dreams, right? So we have to work on this together to get the best for them and also the best for us as a brand in that market.
We have to remember that not every franchise owner is going to be us. I think when we first start in franchising, we think, I'm going to find people that are like me. But that's not who your franchisee profile is, number one.
Correct. And probably would be a disaster.
No, you would have been a horrible franchisee.
I was right. That's exactly right.
Too. No, we would have been terrible franchisees. First of all, were you really going to want to follow rules?
Well, that's very true. Yes. That would probably not pass the profile test for franchisees, right?
Probably wouldn't have, and that's fine.
Yes, no, exactly.
But the thing about the aspirations of different franchise owners, forget where they may be even geographically. Everybody's maybe in a different stage of their life. You might get the grandparent that wants to do this business and they see this as more just for their lifestyle and it's fun and they get to do this and they're doing this as their next stage in their life, where somebody younger might be really hungry and has a young family and they're like, I want this thing to blow up. I'm going to open, Jessi, I want to own 10 locations and I want to, be the behemoth in your network. And just everybody has they're all motivated differently. And I think that's part of the challenge with being an emerging founder is navigating that everybody has different needs and different goals. We're not prepared for that.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. But yet one brand, right? And this is what I'm always saying is like you have different needs and goals from this franchisee to this franchisee, but we all have one brand, right? So we do this the same way. So we're creating a consistent client experience for all of our guests that they can come to know and love. And it's okay to be different in your goals and your dreams for yourself, right? And what your business grows to, but we've all got to do it the same way. And that's something like if, for the aspiring franchisor, the newbie franchisors, that's so important to protect, right? Because it is who you are. Your brand is the experience that your clients get, and the experience they're getting in Colorado has to be the same experience that they're getting in Kansas.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep,
and that's
sure.
like the name of the game for emerging franchise brands that we're really have tried to be very protective of, because it's without that, you can't grow.
All right. Since you're a numbers geek with me, Jessi, what are you seeing as some of the trends in the industry?
Industry. So this is a good topic. What industry would you put us in? Because it's funny. Everyone always says to me like, oh, well, who's our competition? So to me, it's anything you can do for fun. So anything you can do for fun, whether it's, the trampoline parks or Lego or coding or paint your own pottery, or for adults going out to dinner.
Agree. That's a great way of looking at it.
It's experience.
You're competing for the experience dollar.
We're not trying to train go, if you want to be a chef to run a restaurant, you're going to go to a culinary school. We're not your jam, right? We're looking for people that want something fun to do. So trends that I see, I think people want good value, right? Mm-hmm. They want we're definitely a premium price point, average to slightly above. We're very hands-on. It's very engaging. If you compare us, let's say, to a trampoline park where maybe there'd be 5 birthday parties going on at the same time, where one birthday party, have the whole facility, say there's 15 kids, there's going to be 3 crew. So it's a very intimate, engaging experience. Mm-hmm. And I do find that people are looking for that, versus something that's not going to be as hands-on. So that's the biggest thing that I see that clients are really looking for and that we are able to offer.
I think so. I think the experience business has exploded because people want to do things, not just go out. So even aside from the kids, from the adult standpoint, like date night used to be maybe just going to dinner. Now date night involves, let's do something and go to dinner. It used to be like dinner and a movie, and that was it.
Axe throwing or TV cake cooking, right? The bowl. Yes, the sky's the limit in terms of activities. I definitely agree with that. People want to do things and they don't necessarily want more stuff, right? Homes are full for the large part of things. I know with Christmas coming up, I'm seeing it all over social. What are things I can have my parents get for my kids that aren't more toys, right? We're maxed out on toys. Or what can, last week we had a couple get engaged at Taste Buds Kitchen in a private lesson. It's not the first time. I would say maybe, once or twice a year is that special occasion for someone, which they have a professional photographer. And of course, I love seeing the pictures that come from it. But yeah, those really special experiences, the kitchens are full of memories, and that's what we're trying to create.
What's great about your business is that you get to have a totally different experience every time you come back, right? With different menus versus if we go axe throwing, we're throwing axes every time.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Adults can see on the menu, I assume, on your website, know what they're signing up for?
Yeah, so for all the public events, the schedule is posted, usually 3 months in advance, and we have hundreds of recipes. So you might sign up for Tasty Thai, which is a gluten-free menu. You might sign up for handmade pasta, vegetarian menu. So we have menus. Everything's nut-free, always. Too many allergies. We wanted to avoid that. But we have menus that are vegetarian, gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan. So you can pick and choose and sign up for the menu that meets your dietary restrictions or preferences. And then on the private side of things, you're booking the kitchen just for your group. So for the birthday parties for kids, for the corporate team building, we've done 30th, 50th, 70th birthday parties. And you're picking the menu. And like we say, you can pick based on your preferences. Do you want to make ramen? Do you want to do battle cupcake for little kids, right? Do you want to do favorite snowman cupcakes? We've got all recipes under the sun, sweet, savory, always creating it from scratch so you can have the experience that you're looking for.
All right, Jessi, you mentioned earlier the number of locations that you can see this growing, but what is your long-term vision for the company? Kind of summarize that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to open 200 locations in the next 5 years. I want Taste Buds Kitchen to be a brand that is bringing enriching experiences to different neighborhoods and communities all across the country. So I'm having fun doing it. I'm loving it. I really am loving it. I loved growing slowly. I'm love growing more quickly. I'm loving to figure it out. And really, our team is amazing. We're here to support our franchisees. I want to be a brand that does that well. I want to, at the end, feel like, we did the best we could by our franchisees, the best for them, for their families, for their communities. We grew, as reasonably as we could to expand and get the brand out there. Have fun every step of the way.
See this as a legacy business for you and your husband, or take this as far as you can go?
That's a great question. Our kids are 3 and 6, right? So we've got a long time before we think about.
You've got a good runway.
I can't foresee what that would happen. And my 6-year-old wants to be a mechanic. He's already named his company. So he's assured us this isn't in his future.
Okay.
Big wheels mechanic. He has a plan. But we'll have to see. I mean, definitely my husband and I are the visionaries and the spearheaders of that. So we'll have to see which direction life chooses them. Another thing about me is I'm generally not a planner, which seems crazy. Like I plan very much for this week and this year and next year, but you just don't know what the future holds, right? There are no guarantees. You don't know what even tomorrow holds. So generally my perspective is plan for, 1, 2, 3 years, but beyond that, it's going to be very hard to forecast.
That's a great point. And not enough people do that. Or you drop this business plan, that's a 10-year plan, and that thing is outdated by the time you finish writing the damn document. Seriously, right?
Sure. Well, no, I think I read this the other week, which is, so you underestimate the amount you can do in an hour and the amount you can do in a day and the amount you can do in a week, but you dramatically underestimate how much you can accomplish in a year.
Right, because we can't see it.
Yes. You're just like, oh my gosh, I can do so much this week. You can't do that much this week. But if you just keep doing the next right thing, keep making the next right decision, in 1 year and 3 years time, you've probably accomplished a lot. I know all of our franchisees, when they look back, you've accomplished so much in that span of time.
Yeah, I think people are too hard on themselves on a day-to-day basis too. You judge yourself too much on a day-to-day. But if you really took a step back and look like where you were 6 months ago or a year ago,
sure, it's a big difference.
It is. It really is.
It's a big difference. Yeah. So just do the next right thing, I like to say.
Great point. All right, Jessi, if someone was interested in learning more about Taste Buds Kitchen, where would they go?
They could go to our website. So tastebudskitchen.com. Great website. You go to /franchise and you can learn more about becoming a franchise owner. If you want to know about our services, you go to /locations and you can see where our locations are all across the country. Yeah, we'd love to cook with you.
Sweet. All right. Jessi, I finish every podcast with the franchise tip jar. Now, this is going to be something a little different for 2025.
Okay.
So how I'm positioning this question, if you could help, is that if you had a close friend who was thinking about maybe opening a franchise, becoming a franchisee of a brand, what would you give them, maybe a piece of advice that you'd give them to ensure they're making the right choice?
Yeah, that's excellent. So always talk to the franchisees, right? That's really important, to put yourself in their position and talk to them. Generally, they're very willing, and I know ours are, to speak with you and tell you about their experience. So I would say that's definitely first and foremost what I would do. And I would kind of weigh your pros and cons on a pro and cons list, generally how I make a decision, right? There's good things, there's not so good things. Decide on it, sleep on it, and then decide to move forward either way, right? At one point, a decision has to be made. So if you want to do this, do this. If you decide you don't hem and haw forever. That's fine too, right? That's not going to be good for anyone. So those would probably be my 2 tips.
Great advice. I love writing it down because it takes the emotion out of it.
It does. Everything. I have like a pro cons list, and then I'll have like, little spin-offs, and then I decide, I move on, I file the paper away, and I'll find it later. I'm like, oh, I'm glad we did this. This worked out, right? And it's just in those moments when it's all spiraling in your head, make a list. And if you want to do it, move forward. But like I said, if it's not for everyone, right? Being a franchisee is not for everyone. Being a franchisor is not for everyone. So if it's not for you, that's fine too. And then go find what it is that is for you.
Right, because franchising is not the only vehicle to use to either A, expand your business, or B, to own a business.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Jessi, thanks so much. I appreciate being on the show. This was an awesome conversation, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, it was an honor to speak with you. You're a legend. So I enjoyed getting your questions.
And Mom must have paid you for that, but thank you. Thanks, Jessi. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.